Hi, I'm Patrick Giguere with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to this video. Thank you for tuning in. So this video is my August 2022 astrological forecast and analysis for the month. A little late on the ball here. It's August 11th, the day of the full moon as I'm making this. But I've been very busy, I've had a lot going on, so this is just kind of when I've gotten to it. So quick thank you to everybody who supports this channel, to everybody who watches these videos, likes, subscribes, shares, comments. It's all very helpful, it's very encouraging, and I appreciate you. If you're not yet a subscriber, I ask you to consider doing so. Every time I upload a new video, you'll get an alert, and you'll be able to keep up with my content, my new content. So let's get into the topic here. So August 2022, I consider this month to be kind of a pre-party for the big shit show and the big shit storm that's ramping up. We're definitely going to feel the shit storm by the end of October. It's going to be very apparent to everybody, even people who think everything that doesn't come out of either Fox, CNN, NPR, their church, or university, a conspiracy theory. It's going to become very apparent that, everything is just not totally hunky-dory. A lot of people are in denial right now. So I'm calling August the shit show pre-party, the global shit show pre-party. So in this shit storm is this pre-party. The shit storm in the world is getting prepped by Mars right now. Mars is making some movements and doing some interesting things, which we're going to get into. One of the things that sets the tone for August is that big conjunction that my previous video was about. So July 31st through August 1st, we had a conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and then Rahu, the north node of the moon, aka the dragon's head. So real quick, I talk about Rahu. I'm reading sidereal astrology, visible sky astrology. I also take Western tropical astrology into account because they're both systems and they look at the astrology in different ways, but I find the sidereal to be more specific. So if my placement of planets within degrees and houses and signs sound wrong, it's on purpose. So sometimes people get a little flustered in the comments when the placements sound wrong. So yeah, first of the month we had, again, Rahu, Uranus, Mars, all conjunct 24 degrees of Aries. In the Western it was something like, what's that? Yeah, it's like 18 degrees Taurus. So this conjunction, however you look at it, this conjunction was all about very fated changes, sudden kind of shocking innovation and changes, and basically the world sort of being overturned, the world as we know it being overturned very quickly. And these changes are all destined and fated because Rahu, the north node of the moon, the dragon's head, that's one of the karmic points in an astrology chart. So Rahu and Ketu, north and south nodes of the moon, dragon's head, dragon's tail, those points mark karma in a chart. So people who have had natal chart readings with me, birth chart readings with me, that's one of the most important things we go over is this karmic axis in your chart, because it talks about what basically your life's path is and where you'll find your greatest fulfillment in life. And these nodes of the moon, they change signs every year and a half, and it takes about 18 and a half years to make a full orbit, a full transit around the zodiac. So when you're doing predictive astrology, when you're looking at current events in the world and talking about what's going to happen, these 2 points, these nodes of the moon, are very important when talking about destiny, about fate, about things that just have to happen. So again, Rahu is this, it's all about present life karma. It's our obsessiveness. It's all about things we want to acquire and take in and consume, things we can't get enough of. Rahu also deals with illusions, and Rahu is basically the Vedic equivalent to Loki and to Lucifer. So these gods, they deal with basically intellectual and spiritual enlightenment, like flashes of clarity, flashes of insight, flashes of genius. They're also tricksters. So what tricksters do is tricksters accelerate evolution, basically by putting illusions in front of our eyes. And very often, when we're not honest with ourselves, we fall into our own ego traps based on these illusions, when we're not really centered in kind of our genuine identity. When we are centered in our genuine identity, we can use this energy of these tricksters basically to make a quantum leap forward. What tricksters do is tricksters, when people are self-righteous, when they're complacent, when they're arrogant, when things are really stale and people are just stuck in repetitive cycles and they just think what they're doing is amazing and nothing ever needs to possibly change, then the tricksters get involved. They cast the illusions in front of our eyes, and we fall into these ego traps, which are learning lessons. So Rahu, Loki, Lucifer. Lucifer is not Satan, is not a devil. Lucifer marks, in our birth charts especially, what we want most out of life. Marks our aspirations and what our greatest desires and fulfillment in life is. So, and Rahu always deals with gaining new things. So Uranus overturns paradigms and status quos. Mars is energy, vitality, volatility, potentially violence, all that stuff. So you put those three together, it's a lot of unexpected, shocking, sudden change. Very unexpected change. So again, July 31st through August 1st, these planets were together sidereally, 24 degrees Aquarius, Western astrology, about 18 Taurus. So Aries deals with identity, it deals with what goes on in our heads. And it deals with just our desire to go out into the world and find our power by doing things in the world, by building things, making things in the world. And in Taurus, when you're looking at it from a Western point of view, Taurus is materiality. It's gaining and holding on to material things. So Aries is a cardinal sign. Cardinals are kickstarters. They get things going. And it's interesting about tricksters like Rahu, Loki, Lucifer is because it comes from, there's this Indo-European, aka Aryan word, Luca. So Luca, it deals with a flash of lightning. And Loki's name means this too. So the idea is that this trickster energy, this energy of the north node of the dragon's head of Rahu, it's basically the flash of lightning that starts a forest fire. So in modern times with, basically we don't have a real economy anymore, so home values are basically, home value, real estate speculation is basically what our economy is based on now. We see forest fires as horrible things. But in the old days, forest fires were considered extremely healthy because they help the big trees to get healthier. They burn out the underbrush that competes with the big trees for nutrients and water in the soil. So Rahu helps to burn off dead wood. So that we're basically on the threshold of a time where a lot of dead wood's going to burn. And for the next 5 years, from now to 2027, a lot of dead wood's going to burn in the world. So, and Aries is also leadership. When you look at Taurus, Taurus is about acquiring material things and hanging on to those things because Taurus is a fixed sign. Fixed signs don't like to change. So, depending on how you look at this, it's either about a kickstart or it's basically about overturning a fixed sign like Taurus that just wants things to always be the same, always be stable and unchanging. So we can't avoid it. We're on the verge of major changes and innovations and things like that. Now an interesting thing though, there's a Saturn square that was going on with this. So when that conjunction was happening in 24 Aries, sidereally, Saturn was at about 28 Capricorn. So in a square to Aries. Aries and Capricorn are squares to each other. So what I think though is that Saturn is basically going to contain this change and this innovation to some degree. Still going to be explosive, shocking, crazy for the rest of this decade, but Saturn is going to basically keep things in check. So Saturn is the enforcer of the law, the judge of the cosmos, but Saturn also deals with just us, the common people. Saturn also deals with rebellions, with rebelliousness, with fighting for the underdog. So, yeah, even though this big conjunction happened and, you know, it looks like we could move into some dystopian, basically like mega tech world, you know, something like Blade Runner or Brave New World or what's that movie, Equilibrium, you know, some total dystopian, you know, technological world run by technocrats. That's not what I'm seeing. We're gonna be dealing with some of that, but it's not going to be the whole world. Like I'm always saying, I think it's going to be a patchwork world. So some places in the world are going to embrace this. Other places in the world are going to embrace freedom and dignity, human dignity. So I think we're going to have a patchwork world. I think in the next few years, countries are going to start splitting apart based on what road the people want to go down. Whether they want to devolve with, you know, more shots, more pharmaceuticals, more technology doing their thinking for them, technology being implanted into their bodies, or whether they want to embrace freedom and human dignity and actually evolve spiritually. So, yeah, that's what I see with that. So that set the tone for the month. So this huge change wants to break out, but Saturn is saying, well, wait a minute here. And at 28 degrees of Saturn, that is the strongest point of Mars in the whole zodiac. Mars is no stronger than it is at 28 Capricorn. That's the sign where Mars is exalted. So 28 degrees of Capricorn, that's basically the most mature degree in Capricorn before you hit 29. And 29 is like old age, so you know Mars it's wise, but it's not quite strong. So yeah, 28 is that strongest degree for Mars, where Saturn has been. So that's interesting to me. So, yeah, even though there are all these big changes and everything happening, I think basically the undoing of the global elite, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, was basically sewn into this Rahu-Uranus Mars conjunction in Aries that had this square coming from Saturn at 28 degrees of Capricorn. And so, you know, a lot of crazy things are going to happen. Saturn squaring Uranus can deal with earthquakes, storms, economic downturns, volcanoes, air crashes, all kinds of crazy shit. But like I said, Saturn is, I think, containing potential things that could go very wrong. So I find that encouraging. But as far as the elite being undone, it's an important thing I want to leave people with, because there's just a lot of fear out there, and there's a lot of potential for shit to go really crazy. You know, it looks like the US government is trying to basically antagonize China. They're trying to antagonize Russia, and both countries said that they would support each other if the United States and NATO antagonizes the other. And there's basically no peace process in place right now. Instead, you know, Dementia Joe Biden is calling for regime change in Russia, which is totally illegal. And, you know, according to the Democrats, it's only horrible to call for regime change if somebody like, you know, George Bush the stupid, George Bush the younger calls for it. But if a Democrat does it, well, that's okay. So things are very insane. It's like we're in a Cold War again, but the Cold War was much more level-headed. because world leaders were always thinking about a peace process. Now in the West, United States and NATO, world leaders are just little children calling names on the schoolyard. They're like the mean girls from high school. And these people are going to be undone. So yeah, I want to talk about that real quick. So this square between Aries and Capricorn. So Mars and Aries, Saturn and Capricorn. So during this conjunction, again, July 31st to August 1st, Rahu, Uranus, Mars, all in Aries, the home sign of Mars, Saturn's casting the square from Capricorn, which is its home sign. And then again, Saturn is at Mars' strongest degree in its sign of exaltation, Capricorn. So they're both in home signs, but then Saturn is like basically in like Mars, like an exalted sign is like a vacation home, or a planet's a celebrity. So basically Saturn is occupying Mars' like celebrity vacation home. So I think what this was about, Saturn being the judge of the cosmos that judges people's character and judges whether or not you're on your true life path, whether or not you're acting and doing, Mars, from your true life path. Saturn is weighing, measuring, judging all that. And so there's a lot of disingenuousness in this. So people like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, George Soros, Klaus Schwab, Warren Buffett, all these, Christine Lagarde, all these mega bankers that, want to basically take the world over at the behest of their masters. They're not acting from a place of genuine desire. They're acting from a place of fear. They fear not having all the power in the world, so they're out to take it. And their masters, their hidden masters, live from this same place of fear. So because these people are not being genuine about what they want from life, Saturn is going to judge this. So I think looking at what they want to do, Saturn is basically saying, no, I don't think so. And that's the thing that happens when you get especially conjunctions of Mars and Saturn and then oppositions of Mars and Saturn. You get just straight up setbacks. With these squares, the setbacks are not as severe and they're not so present from the outset, but you see setbacks nonetheless when Mars and Saturn are looking at each other. So that's what I see for these people here. It might look like they're going to succeed, but they're not. So basically, Saturn is limiting the changes and the innovations that these mega wealthy dystopian technocrats want to make in the world. So Saturn, 28 degrees of Capricorn, is as strong as it can possibly be. And really Saturn's a lot faster, is a lot stronger than Mars. Mars moves faster, but Saturn is bigger. And Saturn really has more overall say, because Saturn is a social planet, whereas Mars is a personal planet. So Saturn's basically protecting us through all this. So that's a very good thing. So I think what's happened here is like Mars has almost given Saturn the means to undo him. So it's almost like if you're under investigation and you're trying to, say you're not guilty, and then one day you just hand all this incriminating evidence to the prosecuting attorney. It's almost like what Saturn has done with what Mars has done with Saturn, because Saturn is that prosecuting attorney or that judge. Saturn is the court that judges your character. So I think that's interesting. And then too, you have, with K2, since Rahu and Uranus were conjunct, K2 is opposing Uranus within 4 degrees. And then there's a square between K2 and Saturn, because, again, Saturn's in Capricorn, K2's in Libra. So that square's within 4 degrees. So, when you get Saturn and K2 looking at each other in some way, That is basically all about creating and manifesting from a very spiritual place, because Saturn is magic. Saturn is the hidden side of the 3D reality. K2 is basically pure spirituality and a desire for liberation from the 3D. So you put those two together, and really amazing things can be invented and manifested and created. So that's interesting. And then speaking of spirituality, throughout that whole conjunction, throughout this whole month, you get Jupiter and Neptune both retrograde in Pisces in their home signs. So this is helping us to re-examine our spiritual and our emotional lives and to basically straighten those out and reach a better relationship with our spirituality and with our emotional lives. So a lot of potential for alchemy. Again, name of my channel, Cosmic Alchemist. Alchemy is all about refining yourself, refining your character, your emotions, refining your spiritual self, making lemons out of lemonade in life. So Jupiter and Neptune are saying work the alchemy, because Pisces, their home sign, where they're in retrograde right now, Pisces is all about the spiritual and then the deep unconscious emotional. So, when planets go into retrograde, it's all about going back and correcting and fixing things. So Jupiter and Neptune are helping us and giving us power to do that. Jupiter is the spiritual teacher of the cosmos. And then Neptune is basically like a higher octave of Venus. So Neptune is highly divine and highly spiritual. It's all about taking our desires and basically syncing them up with the divine and with the spiritual. So again, that big conjunction, that once in 2,000 plus year conjunction on July 31st and August 1st, that placement of Saturn at 28 degrees Capricorn was totally baked into the cake of that. Baked into the cake of that conjunction. So it's like the world is going to go to the brink, but it's going to back down. I'm not sure how that's going to happen exactly. I definitely think in these times there's huge potential for contact with extraterrestrials, something like that, because the Pentagon is trying to turn ET into the new terrorist. So we'll see what happens. That is a thing that people who, like remote viewers and people associated with the whole Looking Glass project, have said that the world is going to go into insano mode sometime in the next few years, and then something's going to happen in the sky, and then it's all going to back down, it's all going to stop. So I think that's very possible, because things that are lords and masters, these technocrats that puppeteer the politicians, things that they've been doing here on Earth through the quantum web have actually been fucking with other planets, other stars, and causing damage. And I think people who live in other parts of the universe are kind of pissed off and fed up with it. So yeah, they might show up here. So yeah, so that's pretty much the summary here. Actually, another thing in summary before we go into nitty-gritties. August 10th is August 10th, and not so much the 10th, but then getting into the 14th and the 16th of August. Those are really the big days. So why I'm talking about these dates. August 10th, Mars is in Taurus, and it's in the orb of Algol. So if you haven't seen previous videos where I've talked about Algol, Algol is a fixed star. In the sidereal, it's at 2 degrees of Taurus, so I think it's 26 degrees of Taurus in Western. So yeah, Algol is the head of Medusa. It's called the demon star. Medusa in Greek mythology she was a Gorgon, and basically her gaze could turn people into stone. She was I don't want to go too much into the myth, but she was a beautiful woman who was punished by the goddess Athena, who was jealous of her beauty. So she turned her into basically this half human, half snake kind of being. So tail of a snake, upper body of a woman, and she had snakes for hair, and her gaze could turn people to stone. So basically Medusa, this Algol, this demon star, it's all about coming face to face with your deep unconscious emotions and having a kind of non-productive reaction. So in the myths, or like in the Clash of the Titan movies where people stare at Medusa and turn to stone, it's when your emotions basically paralyze your mind, which can paralyze your body too, because your mind is this matrix that connects your body and your soul. So it's all about having your mind paralyzed by just the power of your emotions that becomes overwhelming. And this demon star Algol, this head of Medusa, deals with decapitation, so it deals with losing your head. Whether literally, not a lot of beheadings happen in the developed world anymore. So usually when you have planets conjunct with this, it's when things happen that just make people go crazy and they lose it emotionally. So we're getting prepped for this. Mars is going to go retrograde October 31st on Halloween on Samhain at 1 degree of Gemini. And that's going to be a big ass deal. I'm going to make a video about that in the future. But Mars coming to Algol, this is a primer. So when Mars conjuncts Algol like this, people basically get angry and just like lose their minds. So there's going to be a lot of this going on in the world starting now. A good 5 years of it, really. And also on that day too, you got a conjunction between Moon and Pluto, 2 degrees Capricorn, the retrograde Pluto. So basically our minds, this can be a very uneasy time because our minds, Moon, is conjunct with Pluto. Pluto, the god of the underworld, makes us deal with our deep wounds, our deep unconscious emotions, things we don't want to deal with, things that drive people to self-medicate in daily life. So, August 10th is a big day. And so when I say Mars comes in the orb of Algol, basically these fixed stars that sit on a degree, two sides, 2 degrees to either side is the orb. So since Algol sits at 2 degrees Taurus in sidereal astrology, its influence goes from 0 Taurus to 4 degrees Taurus. So then you jump ahead, you get to August 14th to the 16th. Mars will sit on that 2nd degree of Taurus, will be conjunct Algol the whole time. So, and then Moon and Neptune will be near a fixed star called Markab in Pisces. And this can deal with misfortunes and all kinds of things like that. So the situation in the world is slowly coming to a head and ramping up. So, but like I said, Saturn is watching us. Saturn is containing the really serious potential shit shows. So, stay present, hang on, find things that make you happy, and we'll all get through this. So let's go into the days here. Let's see. So, August 1st was the big Rahu, Uranus, Mars conjunction in Aries. And then you jump ahead, August 7th, Venus in Cancer. So Venus is materiality, Cancer is security. So, we can be really preoccupied with material security around this time for good reasons. There's a lot of rumors about food shortages and starvation and all that kind of thing. Here in America, we're going to be all right. It's going to be more of a junk food shortage. Real food prices will go up, but I don't think we're going to have the plug pulled on us. Because if the food just gets shut off and we all get turned loose to starve, then it's like, who does the work for the global elite? Who fights the wars? Who feeds them? You know what I mean? It's like the world is like a military academy or a sorority or a fraternity. The whole thing is geared around the freshmen or the pledges. Everything in the world is all about how do we manage them, how do we boss them around, how do we manipulate them. If you just let your population starve, then it's like the fraternity, sorority, the academy, it just kind of goes away. It's like there's no point to it without the freshmen. So that's the way I see this. But Venus and Cancer, and Cancer too. Cancer deals with nourishment because when you're a baby, your mother feeds you, and Cancer is the maternal sign, the home sign of the moon, which, among other things, stands for your mother in a birth chart. So, this will raise some concerns about this, but we're going to get through this. August 10th, I mentioned. August 11th, day I'm making this. This is a biggie. Full moon, 25 degrees of Capricorn, sidereally speaking. So what? This is like 19 Aquarius in Western. But from the sidereal point of view, 25 degrees Capricorn, full moon. Full moon's conjunct with Saturn. So this is a biggie. So full moon's at 25 degrees of Capricorn in the constellation, the lunar mansion of Dhanishta. And then Saturn's at 27 degrees also in the lunar mansion of Dhanishta. So what does Dhanishta stand for? Let's break this down. I'll pull all the parts together. So Dhanishta deals with rulers, deals with wealth, wealthy people. It's ruled by the god of earthly abundance. And it's a Mars-ruled lunar mansion, a Mars-ruled constellation. If you're not familiar with this, if you haven't watched me before, or you haven't watched any Vedic astrology before, the 12 signs of the zodiac are made of 27 smaller lunar mansions called nakshatras. So not every degree in a sign is identical. Depends on what constellation it falls in within a sign. So Dhanishta is Mars ruled. Again, ruled also by the god of earthly abundance. Symbols for it are drums, flutes, music, which deals with like walking to the beat of your own drum. And as I mentioned, it deals with rulers, deals with wealthy people. When you have money, when you have power, you have an enhanced ability. Well, you sometimes have an enhanced ability to walk to the beat of your own drum. Unless if you've earned the money on your own, you absolutely have that ability. If you've been placed there by people who are more wealthy and powerful than you, and you're basically a tool for them and a functionary, then you basically have to do things their way. It's like if a kid goes to college and their parents pay the tuition, the food, the apartment, the car, the amusements, all the spending money. They have to do what their parents tell them because they're beholden to them because they're paying all the bills. So, as far as wealthy, powerful people, rulers in this world go, some of them got there under their own steam. Other ones were placed there to be puppets. But, for all intents and purposes, this constellation deals, again, rulers, wealthy people, at least wanting to walk to the beat of their own drum. And it's ruled by Mars, so it has this like aggression, it has lust, it has just a desire to conquer and to win. So, and this deals with, it's an energy of basically like easy victory. It's like you fight hard but it feels effortless and you win kind of effortlessly. So this constellation, Dhanishta, it likes to organize and it likes to lead groups. And this can be good or it can be not so good. It depends on the intentions of the person leading and organizing. This also deals with gathering knowledgeable and intelligent people in order to learn from them through friendship and through social interaction. So you look at people in government or you look at wealthy people, like a Jeff Bezos, an Elon Musk, a Bill Gates. They have big social networks, and within these social networks are people with all different types of expertise. You know, even presidents are like this. They know all these different experts, and if they have a problem or a goal, they have all these different people they can go to for advice and for information. So, that's pretty interesting. So, then, what's a full moon all about? Again, a full moon is about, it's like a spotlight, because the moon is the reflector of the sun. The sun is symbolic of the soul, moon is symbolic of the mind. So during a full moon, the mind, the emotional self, is taking the full light of the soul. So basically, the mind gets laid bare, the mind gets fully illuminated. So full moons are times when we have a heightened awareness of our emotions. Usually the emotions that are hidden from us, or the ones we hide from ourselves, the ones we don't want to deal with, the ones that are just too tough. This is why people go a little nuts on full moons. If you talk to cops, firemen, paramedics, doctors and nurses in emergency rooms, they'll tell you people go crazy on full moons, and there's more violence, more accidents, more intoxication, all that kind of stuff, because people don't like their emotions. They say the greatest fear in the world is public speaking. I think it's dealing with your emotions. I think really public speaking is a distant second. But maybe they're one and the same, because you have to have some mastery of your emotions in order to speak publicly without, basically freezing up. So yeah, full moons are all about having to deal with our emotions. Full moons are also times of birth. It's when things that we want to manifest start taking shape. So this 25th degree of Capricorn in Dhanishta, for all of us, this can be about being your own ruler, ruling your own life, having a sense of wealth in your life. Doesn't mean you're a billionaire, but it means you have what you want and you enjoy having it. And just feeling abundant in your own life and walking to the beat of your own drum. And then having a social network where you have people who can help you and advise you. So, and then Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn is just about, it's about sucking it up and getting things done. And it's also about responsibility too. So a full moon here is about what we need to do and about doing it. So during these times, during one of these full moons, it's like, it can be frustrating because you can feel like your goals are very far away from you and you're never going to get there. I've been feeling this, just kind of in my daily work doing acupuncture. It's like the condition that people in the world, in the Western world are in, there's a lot of apathy. And, a lot of people are like eating, drinking, smoking themselves to death, and they're just like, oh, well, whatever. And, they didn't hear from the TV that, you should be healthy and take care of yourself, so they don't really care. So I've been feeling this lately. I'm like, does this even matter? Do people really give a shit? So, but full moon in Capricorn just makes you want to go forward and get shit done, because again, it's where Mars is exalted. Mars has a lot of power here. So your desire to do and accomplish can feel like it's really deficient if it's not where it wants to be. So then having this full moon conjunct with Saturn within 2 degrees, this is a big deal because Saturn is a restrictor. Saturn holds things back. And Saturn doesn't do this to torture us, but Saturn does this so that we get things done the right way. So, Saturn is responsibility, karma. So, Saturn is basically keeping us from being impulsive about what we want to do here. And then also, Capricorn being the sign of government, it's basically about people feeling more rebellious people feeling like they're getting walked on by government. So Saturn kind of stokes that drive to rebel, to fight for your own freedom. So that's a whole other part of this too. This, for a lot of people in the world, this desire to fight for their freedom is picking up some steam very slowly. It doesn't seem like people are ever going to push back. It just seems like people are going to be content, with their booze and their football games and their shopping and their TV. But slowly but surely, they're going to get pissed off. They're going to stop cooperating. I think by 2027, most of the institutions in the world are going to just utterly come apart. So we're moving in that direction. And the world is going to be reimagined and rebuilt. Let me see. So yeah, August 14th through 16th, I talked about Mars being conjunct Algol. People are just losing their minds with anger because Mars deals with vitality, violence. So, could have some more rioting and all that stuff going on. The media is not covering in Europe all the protests that are going on. Huge protests. People are very pissed off with the governments in Europe that are bought off by all these globalist bankers and these globalist corporate executives. So there's that. August 16th, Sun comes into Leo. Leo is our desire to enjoy life, to have fun. Romance. Leo is all of our passions. So, and the Sun is at home in Leo. So, this is always a time when Sun comes into Leo. This is a time where we think about what is it that we want in life. What do we want to enjoy? How are we going to do that? This is the time agriculturally in the northern hemisphere where we're about a month and a half out from harvest, depending on what it is you're harvesting. And so in that situation, you're looking at your crops and sort of calculating, what is it you're going to harvest. So you're getting ready to enjoy the fruits of your work. August 20th, Mercury comes to 0 degrees of Virgo. This is Mercury's strongest sign, so this is a window for clear thinking. August 24th, day of the new moon, 9 degrees of Leo. So the new moon, Sun and the moon, because the new moon is a Sun-Moon conjunct 9 degrees of Leo. They're going to be in Maga. So Maga is a lunar mansion in Leo. It's one of the constellations that makes up Leo. And I've always wondered if Donald Trump's MAGA was associated with the constellation Maga, because he has a Mars at what? I think 5 degrees of Leo, so right on top of Regulus, and Regulus is the royal star. So I've always wondered that. And, for America, that Leo is the 9th house of higher learning, of philosophy, worldview. So, and the new moons are basically conception time. So, it's a time to, for the world, it's a time to basically think about what you want to enjoy in life. And then for America, when you put it into the 9th house, it's all about basically the joy of learning and information and philosophy and all that stuff. Now, another big thing that's going on the 24th, you've got Uranus stationing to go retrograde at 24 degrees of Aries. That is the point where that conjunction was, again, July 31st to August 1st, conjunction of Uranus, Mars, and Rahu. So Uranus is going retrograde here in Aries. So Uranus in retrograde, like all planets, gets more intense. So this is overturning what goes on in people's heads, because Aries is the head, overturning people's thinking, overturning leadership. This is a really bad time to be a politician right now, especially like a politician in a ruling party, no matter where you are in the world. So I've already mentioned this, this is going to be tough times for Mr. Biden, Ms. Harris, and the leader of China, Xi Jinping, and others. So, yeah, leadership, people's thinking getting overturned in the world with this Uranus retrograde. Also, this points to just these coming changes and innovations overturning the world. Overturning the way we perceive it, overturning our own identities. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to leave it at that. That was a good long one. But, again, to sum it up, a lot of big changes are coming in the world, but, we're being looked after by the divine, by Saturn. Saturn, this ancient of days, the judge of the cosmos. And, Saturn decides what's worthy in the world and in our lives. And things that are not worthy just don't go forward. Now, with that being said, yeah, the people ruling the world who are losing their power, they're going to make a big-ass mess in the next 5 years. They're going to make a huge mess, but they're not going to go much beyond that. And, I think with everything that's gone on in the world, I think the global elite have been trying to buy themselves more time, more centuries, another 1,000 years. I think, you take like the Book of Revelations. The Book of Revelations, it's fear porn, but like the rest of the Bible, it's a script and it's an agenda written by the deep state of its time. And the Bible, as we know it, was again created in the 1600s by Francis Bacon, the top Freemason and Rosicrucian in England. King James had nothing to do with it. He just, signed it like John Hancock on the bottom. John Hancock didn't write the Declaration of Independence. So King James just signed off on it, and they kind of dedicated it to him. So Francis Bacon, again, head Rosicrucian, head Mason, Order of the Garter, members of all kinds of secret societies, member of what became MI5, Queen Elizabeth's. During the days of Queen Elizabeth, he was part of that secret service when she commissioned it, and after her reign going forward, he was a member of it. So this guy, it's not like the religious fundamentalists say, well, he might have been a bad guy, but he was inspired by God to edit that Bible. And it's like, no, he wasn't. What they were doing was, in the 1600s, secret societies and the mega corporations of the time were planning an age of colonization and imperialism. And they constructed the Bible in order to get people on board with that agenda. And literalist religions are a big part of building global empires because it makes people arrogant and self-righteous. So, getting back to the point with Revelation, where it talks about, I think, the deep state of its time in the 1600s, at some points in Revelation they were referring to themselves as God and Jesus, and at some points they're referring to themselves as the devil. But, that 1,000-year reign of the devil, it's like that was them telling us when the age of Pisces ended, they still wanted to buy themselves another 1,000 years. So I think they've been using sort of like the negative side of Saturn. And so when you talk about the age of Aquarius, first half is ruled by Saturn, second half is ruled by Uranus. So they thought they could tap into the power of Saturn to buy themselves another 1,000 years of living just like the age of Pisces, where it's a pyramid and, it's like top-down micromanagement. Not going to happen, but that's what they've been hoping for. So that's the big takeaway. It's not going to happen. They're going to hope for it. They're going to make a mess, but they're not going to get their way. So that's about it. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back, and have a nice one.